Hello, my name is Daisy Vasquez, and this is going to be my video for case study 4. So for this case study, we were asked to do a scenario of being an athletic director here in the Valley, and how and we're not satisfied with how our athletes are being prepared for athletic competition. Um, so I'm going to share my case study, my website right now. Okay, so this is going to be my website. I did do it differently this time. I followed your feedback and I ended up doing the whole just a scrolling thing, no folders, links, nothing. So, but what you can do is you could go ahead and click it right here where it says case study 4. And it's going to take you all the way down where the case study 4 is. Okay, and I want go ahead and put the this right there. So for my assessment and plan for this, I put, since most of the school districts here in the Rio Grande Valley are divided by elementary, middle school, and high school, I would categorize each school levels into different psychological programs because as we grow, we all have different psychological views and needs. So maybe up north, their school levels are differently, but for right now, I do have elementary kids, middle school kids, and high school kids. Um, so my plan is to get all of the levels, mentality strong and confident in order for them to perform well in their sport. I also believe that since one of the questions was what is it that what's it called, like, why don't our athletes here in the Valley perform well in upper states? I was thinking, and I came into the conclusion of saying, well, one of the reasons why I believe that they don't perform well is also because the weather here, it's really hot. So I feel like coaches have to cut down the practices to not overwork the athletes because the weather and humidity, the hotness and humidity here does cause extreme fatigue and it could cause a fainting, dehydration. That's why I believe that that could be a part of it. Um, so for the exercise prescription for the elementary level, um, I have put that it is important to start working on their psychological skills then and there. During this stage, the stage children often seek adult approval, which can create confusion on the child, whether to seek approval from the parents, coach, or sports psychology practitioner. So let's say the sports practitioner is telling them one thing and the parent is telling them another thing. Let's say the coach and the sports practitioner is telling them it's okay to ask, like, the little boys and girls, let's say they're telling them it's okay to ask for help, and the parents are telling him no, hide your feelings. They're going to choose whoever they want to seek approval from. So they might seek approval from the parent that is telling them no. So they're not going to want to seek help. They're going to be like, no, I don't care about any of that help, nothing. Even as kids, they start thinking that way. Um, and I put, at this stage, children are still learning the equality and fairness in sports. Thus, if another team member or another player from the opposite team does not follow the rules and play unfair, the child might act irrationally and not be able to control their emotional state, which is where sports psychology comes into play in these early stages. Um, so I don't want to completely what's it called, focus too much on this, just very little to try to make it understand, work with their feelings with them. I don't want to make it too long for them either. I would like to do it maybe 15 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes pushing it, Um, and I would like to do it frequently just so they could start learning on that. So I do have an article here that I really liked and I enjoyed reading it because I thought it gave me great information on there. That's where I got my answers from. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh no. Okay, there you go. So right here it says, in the development of self, athletes in this stage, which is the mid-childhood, 6 to 11, which falls around the elementary levels around there. In the development of self-athletes in this stage, evaluate their self-worth and develop self-esteem based on a limited number of sources, competence, information, and from global sense. So by saying that, I want them to have a different mindset. I don't want them to have a fixed mindset, as this chart shows us, So a fixed mindset is, it leads to a desire to look smart and therefore a tendency to avoid challenges, get defenses or give up easily, see effort as fruitless or worthless, ignore useful negative feedback, and feel threatened by the success of others. I want to start teaching them at a young age to have a growth mindset, because in a growth mindset, it leads to a desire to learn and therefore to a tendency to embrace challenges, persist in the face of setbacks, set efforts as the pathway to mastery, learn from the criticism, and find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. So just because, so this is basically saying that just because a student passes a test doesn't necessarily mean that they're intelligent, whereas a student who fails is maybe because they want to learn more, That's why I want to start teaching them at the elementary level, to get the growth mindset on them. Moving on to middle school level. During this level, the kids are going through changes such as new school, new faces, a new schedule. Meanwhile, they're also going through puberty. During this stage, it's very important to include some psychological skill training, because at this level, their bodies are changing, which means the young adults start comparing themselves to one another, and they create body image issues, as well as athletic comparison. Especially in girls, they start comparing body-wise, and in boys, it's athleticism. They want to be the fastest, they want to be the strongest, and that's why here this is a stage where, okay, sports psychology is important in this area. It is important to create a safe environment for the athlete in order to avoid hostile environment, and also work on any type of anxiety that they get, whether it be getting anxiety before the competition or getting anxiety after the competition, because they're afraid of what their coaches and or parents might think of them. A way to do this is to have the athletes understand the importance of having a psychological skill training in there, and have the athletes write how they feel and anonymously shared with the sports psychologist. So the sports psychologist could address the issues that they might be having as a team, because you don't want to create tension with them. They're already dealing with all these changes, so you want to create a safe environment for them and address those needs anonymously. As stated by Vincent Harris and Bloom, 2013, practitioners can highlight this new development achievement by using discovery learned-based questions and activities, which allows the athletes to figure out the answers themselves. Additionally, athletes at this stage are thus able to better understand the rationale behind mental training activities and how those activities can facilitate positive sport enjoyment and performance. So I don't want them to be beating themselves up when they lose a game, or they didn't perform as they wanted to, you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. And I believe that the Valley, here in the Valley, it's most of the coaches and athletic directors focus mostly on the star, like the top player, and they kind of push aside I guess like your average players that are still in the sport, and I don't want that to be the case. That's why I want to put sports psychology here, to tell them, hey, you're all important. Doesn't matter if you're varsity, JV, the B team, A team, no matter. Everybody is important, So that's why this is where I really want to incorporate that sports psychology. Here's a little picture that I included that I thought it was really useful. So it has your categories here, mid-childhood, early adolescence, and mid-adolescence. So, and it categorizes your years, as well as it gives us like some examples that we could include in the sports psychology program. And yes, now moving on to high school level. Excuse me. During this level, the athletes are more physically and sexually mature. They can express their feelings more and are more independent. During this stage, I would push sports psychology skill training in the mostly more in the boys than in the girls. As author Scott states in this article right here, sorry, let me go back really quick. Back to here. Research on socialization into and through sport indicate that the competitive sports may also influence attitudes towards seeking assistance. Boys and men are more likely than girls and women to participate in masculine sports and recreational activities that involve the risk of injury. When competing in sports, most males will gradually develop the belief that to be a man, an athlete requires them to learn to accept pain, physical risk, and injury in stoic silence. On the contrary, most female athletes gradually learn to accept the pain and adversity as part of athletics, but they do not necessarily associate with their identity as a woman. In the United States, most females are able to participate in highly aggressive and competitive sports while maintaining the perception that they are also feminine without experience role conflict, whereas men tend to have more rigid view about their athletic identity and role as a man. Hence, male athletes may be more resistant to sports psychology services than female athletes. Also in this, I would avoid favoritism here. Like I said in the other one too, I don't want my sports practitioner to have their favorite athletes. I want my sports practitioner to treat them all as a whole equally with one another. And for this here, for my athletes sports psychology skill training, I would have them do about 40 to 50 minutes about sports psychology session in this high school level, but less frequent as compared to elementary level, and also include some the same psychological skill level training as middle school as well. So now we're moving on to case study questions. It says, if you need to hire a sports psychologist, who would you hire and why? What qualifications would you look for in this individual? My response was, I would hire a sports psychologist because it offers advancement in mental aspects of both athletic competition and performance. I would hire someone who has experience on this. So maybe someone who has experience rejection from the coach, someone who was never the top athlete. They know how that feels like. So I want someone like that, someone who's been in those athletes' shoes. I want someone who has extensive knowledge in this field, as well as someone who has a degree in this area. And like I mentioned, someone who can relate to what it feels like on having sports psychologists. I would want someone with tons of patience, as well as someone who cares for the athlete's mental state. Case study question number 2 is, why is it that so many Valley athletes do not do well when they compete up north? Is it purely genetics, physical, or mental? My response is, to my understanding, athletes are not well prepared mentally for games with the upper states. Down here, they are all dealing with the same type of mentality with one another. Since here in the RGV, the athlete's mental state is not really taken into consideration. If it is, coaches mostly care for only the top athletes and leave the rest of the team behind, feeling uncared for, which leaves pressure to the top athlete and can create anxiety for both the top athlete and the regular average athletes. It is not genetics. In some sports, such as running, tennis, soccer, golf, and cheerleading, I believe that if you have the mentality and the guts, one can accomplish anything. Here in the Valley, it is hot, which is why I believe that sometimes practices are cut short in order to prevent dehydration and fatigue because of the weather. So yes, maybe basketball, volleyball, football, those areas, genetics might play a big factor in how performance is made with athletes here versus up north. But other than that, everything else is guts and determination and how strong your mentality is. How bad do you want it? And the other case study question is, at what age or school year would you begin preparing these young male and female athletes with sports psychology program? My response is, I would begin preparing them starting at their 7th grade year in middle school, because this is where they start being a little bit more mature, since they are from the upper class from all the other levels. And that is where they start to see changes in themselves, not only physically, but mentally as well. Another thing that I would like to add is, I feel like here in the Valley, most of the pep rallies are for only the football team. As an athlete, if you are on other sports and you see that you want that kind of support, you want the whole student body and the whole school to support you, especially if you're going to regionals, state, you want that kind of support. So I believe that if I was the school district administrator, the athletic director, I would push to have pep rallies made for all sports, all sports, even maybe like the other activities such as choir, band, orchestra, mariachi, those kinds of programs as well, those types of clubs as well. We all need that support. It feels good to have someone support you. So yeah, like that's what I would push with with school district to do, change the fact that only the football teams gets that type of hype. And I want everyone, all my athletes, cross country, track, volleyball, soccer, basketball, golf, tennis, swimming, wrestling team, weightlifting team, I want them all to get that kind of support. Because that will affect them, So yeah, that's going to conclude my video. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Bye.